Hi! We're back again.
We're back.
We're back. We actually... So I'm going to start out with... We did record last week.
Someone fucked up!
That would be me. We did record last week, and I didn't realize that somehow or another I didn't record my audio. And I didn't realize it until I went to edit the video, and no audio from me. I could only hear Chris. And I was like, well, that would make for an interesting podcast to let everybody guess what I was saying, but I don't think that would go over very well.
Yeah.
So we didn't post that one. I got rid of it. We didn't re-record it. We were like, F it, we're just going to move it to this week. We only had about an hour worth of stuff anyway. Yeah. You know, it's been a weird week. And we didn't have a story. We started with the biggest non-story there was, but that has now become a story. So, yay! And that was, at the time we had recorded last week, Dalvin Cook, we didn't know what was going on with him. This week, we can definitively say Dalvin Cook has been released by the Minnesota Vikings. He no longer is no longer a member of the team.
Interesting on that, by the way. I didn't even talk to you about this before, but I thought it was still interesting. That apparently, there were rumors that the Dolphins almost traded for him back last month.
Yep.
Didn't do it. Waited because they did expect him to get caught. And now they're still trying to get him because it sounds like the reason why they didn't trade for him is because they didn't like his contract.
Pretty much.
They want to pay him less money.
That was my understanding, was most of the stuff that Minnesota almost had in place for him was because most teams didn't like the contract he was under. And my understanding is the reason we got rid of him is because we didn't like his contract. Had his contract been... probably $2 million less, we might have held on.
2 or 3, yeah.
2 or 3 less, we might have held on.
I think he was going to be 19 this year.
Yeah, I think so. But if we could have kept him at
17, 16,
yeah, we'd have kept him.
I agree, probably, or at least been easier to move him anyways.
It would have been much easier to move him at that point. There have been a lot of people who have been saying that he's one of the fastest, blah blah blah, this, that, the other. He still had 1,000 yards. Guy hasn't had a fully healthy season in ever?
I think 3 seasons.
I'm not sure.
If I last looked, I think it was about 3 or 4 seasons ago.
Yeah. So he has a problem with injury. And with the Vikings transitioning to more of a pass-heavy offense rather than a run offense, and Cook not exactly having the best hands out of the backfield. Not that I'm saying Madison is any better, but...
Not really. But considering the fact how much we're paying Madison versus how much we are paying Cook...
That was what the key comes down to, is Madison, in the small sample size we have of him, he has looked at least halfway decent, and like he could potentially be a small-time replacement for Cook while we find our next running back. The problem is... Well, there's a lot of problems, but Cook had a lot of money tied up in him. Madison is way smaller in terms of contract size. We saved about $9 million in cap space on that deal.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, where are we going to spend that $9 million? Look, I'm going to tell you exactly where you're going to spend that $9 million. You're going to spend it extending JJ.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Add more than that.
Yeah. But Justin Jefferson is going to be where most of that money goes. 100%. Especially if you do let Kirk walk at the end of this season.
Yep. If
you let Kirko walk, and get rid of that contract, plus you got the $9 million you saved from him,
potentially trading Danielle Hunter, too.
And I was going to get to that. You
Sorry.
beat me to that punch. So... We are looking into trading Danielle Hunter. That is something that has come up. Supposedly there are several teams that are quite interested in Danielle Hunter. We've generated a lot of interest in him. So I mean, considering that he has had some injury history in the past, his contract is pretty palatable, and last season he had a very good season. So the reason people are looking at trading him currently is because of all of those things. Right now, we're trying to trade him because his value is slightly high. Thus, we're going to sell high. We're going to gamble that he's not going to be able to return to complete form, and we're going to gamble that whatever we get for him would be better than the nothing we would get if we played him for part of the season and then traded him. Because then you run the risk, and I had this discussion with Chris, you run the risk of actually having him get hurt, and then you're just stuck with him. Yeah. So trade him off now while you can. You know his trade value is somewhat high. You could get it higher, but at the moment, you've got a decent value for him. You might as well trade him while you can, and while there's some interest in him. Exactly. That's kind of the big thing for the Vikings right now. Now, other things that have happened over the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks that we haven't done a podcast. Okay, so DeAndre Hopkins has been released outright by the Cardinals. They could not find a taker for him, which boggles my fucking brain.
I think everyone anyone with half a brain probably realized that made absolutely zero sense.
And nobody understood it. I don't know what they were doing. Nobody knows what they were doing. I've stopped trying to figure it out because I don't want to figure it out. I don't want, I definitely don't want to worry about it. But, it is what it is. So, all right.
Cardinals being Cardinals.
The Cardinals are being the Cardinals. So Daniel Hunter, or not Daniel Hunter, D-Hop has been released. Now, he has been doing, and Chris and I had talked initially kind of about, where is he going to end up, and we came up with a couple of interesting places. Supposedly he's staying in Houston and working out there right now. But I don't know that he's had any contact with the Texans at the moment.
Not that I've heard of.
From what I've heard, he has not reached out to them, and they have not reached out to him, which would seem odd to me, but also kind of understandable. The only two teams that I have been able to confirm that he's had contact with are the Titans, whom he went and had a meeting with this last week, and then next week, upcoming here, he has a meeting with the Patriots scheduled, which I think is odd considering how everything ended between him and Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, that part was odd, but if I do remember right, those are both teams that you and I discussed as potential partners. Like, I brought up the Titans, I remember, because I was like, oh yeah, they need wide receivers. That makes sense. And I think you brought up the Patriots as like a weird dark outlier if they can get over the Bill O'Brien.
Your dark outlier, and my dark outlier was the Colts.
I couldn't remember. I know one of us brought it up as an option as long as they can get over the Bill O'Brien issue, but.
And the Colts are a dark outlier, and I also said the Lions would be interesting.
Yeah, you and I both agreed on the Lions. I think I also brought the Texans if contact happened, but I just see it as like
doesn't seem like it's going to. I would look at the Lions at the very least. I do not blink if the Lions make a sudden play for him, because adding another wide receiver to that room, especially considering that Williams is gone for 6 games to start the season, and they have aspirations of winning the Northern Crown this year, which
they're not. They're geared up to do.
They're geared up
if we don't look good,
they could do it.
Yeah.
This is the
if the Vikings don't look good, this is the year they're going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. The Vikings are going to go through a transitional phase, I think. I've seen somebody had put up a Reddit poll about what do you want more? Do you want a full rebuild? Do you want a competitive rebuild? Or do you want to stay the course? Most people have gone for the competitive rebuild idea, which I think is a horrible, horrible idea.
I get the idea, because if you pull it off correctly, you can do that and sustain that for a long time. Best examples are the Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, you can see what they've built and how they're able to continue staying, how long the Patriots stayed relevant for, and how well the Chiefs have continued to mimic that kind of same formula, how long you can stay relevant for if you have the right pieces to do it. The problem is you have to have the key pieces to do it. Right now, the Chiefs do, which is head coach Andy Reid and quarterback Patrick Mahomes and tight end Travis Kelce. Like, that's your triple threat, like right there. Like, they've made it clear that with those, heck, and technically even Kelsey probably could go. I mean, you probably only really need the quarterback and coach to be on 100%. I mean, you look at the Patriots for proof of that.
And that's what I was getting at.
So competitive rebuilds can work, but you have to have the right pieces.
You have to have a great scouting department, and you have to get super lucky hitting on the right pieces at the right spots.
Yeah.
And if you don't, your team just slowly declines. Yeah.
And then it takes forever to dig out.
Exactly.
I mean, if you want proof of that, look at the Bears. Woo.
Yeah. The Jets.
Even the Lions, I guess, if you wanted to say, yeah. Jets. Yeah.
So the biggest problem is, my viewpoint has always been go for the full rebuild when you can. Ditch everything you possibly could. Keep your young core and don't try to go for the playoffs. Try to go for the top draft spots. We know the Cardinals are probably going to end up with one this year. The Vikings potentially could end up with what I consider, again, their spot, which is right around 12 or 13 whenever they're doing their weird rebuild things. Yeah. And so long as we don't get fleeced if we trade it, I'm okay with that. But at the same time, you gotta know what you're doing. You gotta know what you need, and you've gotta know how to move things around. So far, exactly. I'm gonna be honest, I have not been impressed with the trades. Well, a couple of them have been okay, but I haven't been overly impressed with Adolfo Mensa's trading ability. He appears to be a little bit... He appears to get fleeced more than he hits.
It's hard to say. I would say he takes more gambles at certain times than others, but I don't necessarily say that's necessarily a bad thing. For example, bringing in Smith when they did, I think was actually good.
No, that was smart, but then when you traded him away, you got a pair of thirds.
At the same time, he requested a trade and was made it very clear that, I think we got what we could get out of him, kind of thing, because apparently that market wasn't very good, right?
One of the very first trades he made when we traded in the first round with with Detroit, and they got Jamison Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't get crap for it.
That one felt more of I guess I would argue, I think he was trying to make a statement in the way that he was new general manager. I am okay with trading inner division, and I want to make that very loud and clear. And that's kind of what that felt like to me. And it felt weird. It felt like a power move that didn't really achieve anything outside of that. Though, granted, we have traded with them since and have gotten okay out of it. So I'm wondering if there's like some kind of
the Hawkinson
friendship thing going on there. Yeah.
The Hawkinson trade was okay. That felt like a makeup for, hey, we fleeced you in the draft here. We'll give you Hawkinson a little cheaper.
Well, I think it's that, but I think there's also kind of like a slight friendship of like, wink, wink, nod, nod. We both hate Green Bay, so it's okay. Like...
That's a thing, too.
So, I think Mensa is... I wouldn't necessarily, no general manager is going to be amazing all the time. It's clear that, this is obviously his second year. Based upon how he's done for so far, I would say he's done about as well as I would expect a new GM to do. It's not like he's a GM before this. This is literally his first time being a GM. It's not like, So... Because of that, there's going to be some growing pains, right?
And that's what I'm hoping that he gets it, kind of figured out.
I feel like he's done okay. I wouldn't say it's... If he was like a GM at a different team and had come over and made these moves, then I'd be more annoyed. Yeah. But as a first-timer...
doing it, okay. No, okay, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think overall we'll be in a good spot. If this blows up in our face...
Or if we play better than we're supposed to.
Well, there's two options here. Either one, everything works out the way we think it's going to, and we'll be middle of the pack this year. We may make the playoffs. It's an outside edge, but we also may not. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there are two other options. One, we could have a season like last season where we just find a way to win everything and we're not quite sure the fuck how.
Yeah, and we're still questioning what the hell do we do now.
Because at that point, I'm going to go see a cardiologist and get some heart medication.
Well, that on top of that, I'd be like, what do we do with Kirk Cousins? Like, I don't know what you do with that at this point.
Yeah. Or there's the other option, which is the entire season explodes in our face. All the old pieces don't work out. Obviously, Madison does not work out as a Cook thing, and we just explode at the seams.
In some ways, that'd be okay, though.
And if that happens, at least we know what we're doing next.
Yeah, we're getting a QB.
Yeah.
We're getting one of the top QBs. All right, fair enough. We got a young QB with JJ and another young wide receiver. All right, let's that might be okay. That might not actually be the worst thing possible.
The point that I'm getting at though is we never really 100% know what's going to happen,
especially with the Vikings.
The Vikings.
They're consistently inconsistent.
And the worst part is they give you hope before they collapse.
I know. Like, that entire season was great, and then the first playoff game.
I knew that was coming, though.
I knew it was probably coming, but still, it still didn't feel good.
Beat New Orleans on the Minneapolis Miracle, and then didn't even show up to Philadelphia.
Not even close.
Didn't pack any offense for Philly. Didn't even pack a defense.
Or heck, the other Saints playoff game where Kirk Cousins ended it on a touchdown, and then the next game basically didn't happen because we got smoked by, I think, was it Dallas or whatever?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
good times.
The Vikings give you hope and then snatch it away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's at least the Cardinals don't give you hope first.
Not last season, the season before they did. They almost made playoffs.
Yeah. Well, and at that point in time, you could have said at least the Jaguars don't give you hope first. Now, this year,
the Jaguars are kind of like looking good, though.
Yeah, now they are. By the way, somebody had the most atrocious take that I've ever read anywhere, and I wanted to bring it up to you. Oh, this is a bad one.
How bad? It can't be that bad.
If you swapped Trevor and Zach, they'd have each other's trajectories. Trevor would be just as bad as Zach in New York, and Zach would be just as good as Trevor in Jacksonville.
While I can understand why you try to make that connection because New York does tend to ruin QBs, I do agree Trevor would not be as good as he is now. I do not agree that Zach would be as good as Trevor is now.
I think Trevor would actually be pretty damned good.
Maybe I'd be only concerned because of QB coach. That's the only thing I would be concerned about.
Well, I also feel like they had better weapons in New York than they did in Jacksonville until last season. And even last season, the weapons weren't amazing, but they were made to look pretty good.
Also, let's be honest. Zach with Doug Peterson as your head coach. Oh, that would have been a horrendous... Like, can you imagine Zach Wilson and Doug Peterson together? You're telling me that would have been more successful? You are out of your mind.
Oh, yeah. So to whoever thought that, my dude, you have lost every one of your marbles.
Yeah.
Now...
I mean, Urban Meyer, fucking hell, Urban Meyer.
That would
be even worse.
One of the other interesting things that's come out is the new offensive coordinator for the Ravens, Todd Monken.
Oh, right.
Right. He has said that what he wants to do is put more power into the hands of Lamar to let him audible more frequently as he sees fit and necessary. Basically, turn him into an offensive coordinator on the field.
Makes sense to me. That's what he should be doing.
Makes perfect sense to me. I am 100% on board with this idea, and we'll have to see how it works out. I think
you just have to have the football IQ to make it work, but if you can, I mean, you look at Peyton Manning, I mean, obviously a guy who could do that at will. I mean, if you had the football IQ to make it work, do it.
Absolutely. So the other news coming out of OTA camps, Rodgers completed all 4 days of his OTA camp and had a pretty good time doing it, apparently, according to him.
And I've also heard from apparently all his teammates that apparently he brings like a new air into the locker room for QB. It's like apparently everyone's just hyped as fuck around him. So
Oh yeah. Well, I think he's hyped as fuck too.
yeah, everyone seems to be hyped as fuck. So anyone who thinks that that's gonna like nosedive into the cement right away, you're probably wrong.
That everybody seems
typically when everyone's riding high, things are gonna go good.
yeah. The other one is talking about the Vikings rookie quarterback Hall. A lot
yeah.
of a lot of people have been impressed with not his throwing or his arm, but how much responsibility and things he's trying to take on. His attitude.
Well, that, and I've also heard there was one quote that I read that was hilarious, which I don't remember if it was Stefanski or said it, or if it was the offensive coordinator. But somebody said that what they like about Jaren Hall is not the things he does do, but the things he doesn't do.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, it's not like, oh man, he's got such incredible arm or incredible accuracy or anything like that. It's just more like, oh no, he just doesn't make mistakes.
And when he does, he takes responsibility for them and tries to correct them.
Exactly.
That's what you want.
Exactly. So, now will he ever will he be the starter? I don't know if he's good enough to ever be that, but a really good backup, I'd be okay with that.
I would be okay with that too. Will he ever be a starter? Who knows? Probably not.
I'm willing. Probably not long term, anyways. If he does, but
yeah, I could see him having 1 or 2 seasons, a la the kid from Houston, the one we had for that one season, and then we got rid of him, and then he sucked. You know exactly who I'm talking about. He came in for Bradford.
Yeah.
I think he actually threw the Minneapolis Miracle touchdown.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he did okay as a veteran after that. Case Keenum.
Keenum, thank you.
He had actually okay success after that, but mostly as a backup. Again, like
yeah,
he couldn't stay consistent. He happened to have a really good consistent year with us, but if you looked at most of his years, they were not consistent enough. And then he
went and signed with Denver, where they thought he could be their starter, and he tanked hard.
Yeah, he just couldn't be consistent enough.
Nope. But he had one really.
He had all the talent, just couldn't put it together.
one really good consistent year with us, and that he tried to parlay that into a payday, and he did. And then he never really
give
got
credit
there again.
Give the dude credit. He got his payday.
That's one of those things. So yeah, that's happened. I
think he's still a backup somewhere too. I think he's still playing.
I have no idea.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But point is, I think this year's going to be a very interesting year of football from what we've seen so far. I'm very excited for the preseason to start, so we can get a look at some of these people.
Especially that Army kid. Oof.
Yeah, I've heard
he's really good
about him. Yeah.
I've heard that dude's just a beast on the field.
Yeah, and that wouldn't surprise me at all.
No.
Now, let's talk hockey a little bit, because I think we need to talk hockey a little bit.
Fair enough.
Because the Stanley Cup Finals have begun. It is Vegas and Florida. And the good news is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who wins this. It'll be their first time ever hoisting a Stanley Cup. In fact, the other night, we're going to talk about this real quick, Florida won their first ever Stanley Cup game. In the finals. The last time they went, they got swept in 4 games. That would be 1996. I was 16 years old.
I would have been 4.
Yeah.
Actually, it would have been technically 3 because I wouldn't have been 4 that year yet.
There you go. Just so you all understand. I would have been 16 years old at that point in time when that playoff took place, and they got beat in 4 games. I don't remember who beat them, but they got beat in 4 games. So this year they were down. They lost the first 2 games in Vegas, and then, in true Panthers fashion, they came back and won the game a couple of nights ago in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
3-2. And I've been warning you. I've been warning because the Golden Knights have been really, really hot against them. And I warned them. I said, you know what? You think you're doing good. You can't give them an inch. Because if you give Florida an inch, they'll get off the mat and they will kick your ass.
Yeah, I don't know how, but Florida is one of those teams that the minute they score a goal, all of a sudden everyone just gets hyped as fuck and starts scoring goals. Like it takes them forever to get that first goal, but once they do,
even in a series, you think you've squashed that bug, and then like a big old cockroach, a Florida cockroach, they just keep going right away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're almost like, they basically grind wins. Like, they're like, we're not getting tired. We're just going to make you tired, and then we're going to score a bunch of goals on you at late.
Yeah, and like I said, this series, they're going to let you take the first 2 games, but they're going to grind you down those first 2 games and make you work for it. And then by the 3rd or 4th game, you're going to start really getting tired. And by that, we'll see Florida now, this 4th game that's upcoming. They're going to win that, in my opinion. And then it's just going to be a crapshoot from there. And
probably.
I don't think Vegas has a chance.
Who's going to outlast?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to turn into Florida.
It might be a surprising Florida.
Yeah,
it might be.
Totally could be. So that is a thing that is happening right now. It is going to be very interesting to see. Now, on the other news, as we talked about last week, but unfortunately did not make the cut. We've had some movement in the world of the GMs, which is, so the Calgary Flames have hired a new GM. I don't remember his name, and I don't really care, because their last one stepped down, Brad Treliving. Brad Treliving has become the new GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs after they parted ways with Kyle Dubas. Now, if anybody recognizes the name Treliving, it's because his father is part owner of Boston Pizza.
Figures.
Dude doesn't need to work and works anyway. I think he's going to work out quite well in Toronto because the people that own MLSE are all billionaires and his dad has that kind of money. So he knows how to talk to money people. You can't talk to people that have money the same way you talk to everyone else.
Like not unless you're one of them. Only can, like, unless you're one of them can you talk to them like that. Like you have to be kind of in that group.
Yes, but even then you know how to talk their language.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm
learning how to insult them without actually insulting them. Yes.
And also learning how to get what you want out of them without,
actually asking for it. Exactly.
In the meantime, Dubas, who had said something of the effect of, if I am not the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, don't expect to see me pop up as the GM somewhere else, kind of held to that when he became the president of hockey operations in Pittsburgh. He is not the GM. He has to hire a GM now. And at the same time, the Columbus Blue Jackets have hired their new head coach, Mike Babcock. And as we said, we made fun of that name.
Yeah, it's not... I mean, when you have a last name with that really emphasizes cock, it's pretty hard not to ignore it.
They've also the Blue Jackets have partially rebuilt their blue line already, with a couple of big trades, because they traded for. Hold on. They traded for 2 blue liners. One of them is Ivan Provorov, which that was a pretty big move from Philly. All right, let me see if I can find the. There we go. So they got Provorov. They gave up some stuff for him, but that's a really, really, really good move. He's obviously going to be your second string blue liner right behind Zach Werenski. However, Damon Severson, they got him in a sign and trade from New Jersey, and I think it's entirely possible that he's going to be their top line right defenseman, top line right D.
Gotcha.
Now, does this immediately make them one of the better defensive teams? Kind of. But they're definitely going to be able to move the puck a lot better in the neutral zone, which is going to make the forwards happy. So there's that. There's also rumors that Carter Hart might be on his way out of Philadelphia. John Gibson might be on his way out of Anaheim. Now, the problem with Gibson is his contract, which there's no signing bonus. It's straight up, flat out $6.4 million for several more years. And he hasn't, recently he has not looked like the world beater goalie that he used to be. So
Gotcha.
any team that wants him is going to be taking a big swing on him getting better or regaining some form with a better team. And Anaheim doesn't want to hold on to any of that cap space. So you're going to have to take that whole 6.4.
Oof.
Yeah, that's oof Marone.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen. There's a lot of different stuff. Now, the last major thing is that let me see if I can pronounce this guy's name. Cuz it's a name.
It's a name.
Oh, it's a name.
I mean, everyone has a name. You're right.
Apostolopoulos.
Fair enough.
He's a Canadian billionaire, and he was on the Senators to buy them for just over $1 billion, I believe is what or not $1 billion. Yeah, no, $1 billion. He had one of the largest bids, but he has dropped out of the running. He is not happy with the way the NHL is conducting the process, and apparently it's a shit show. Yeah.
When somebody who has that much money trying to buy a team and he goes, you know what, fuck this, I'm tired of this, that's not good.
No, because so it's become pretty apparent there are now 2 bidders left on this team, or for this team. One of them is the group that has let me see here. Nico Sparks. That's the group that has Snoop Dogg in it. And the other group is Andlauer and the billionaires Jeffrey and Michael Kimmel of the Toronto-based Harlow Capital. So those are that particular group, Andlauer and the Kimmel brothers. That's the group that apparently the NHL is favoring, but they're waiting for them to get all their money together, and their bid is only around 850 million.
Why? Like, why wouldn't you take the bigger bid? Like, I don't get it.
There have been questions like that. Supposedly, it's because Gary knows Andlauer. And Andlauer has, I'm not entirely sure, done some stuff for the NHL and donated a bunch of money in the past and other stuff. And so what you have to remember is there are 32 owners in that sport. So if you're going to bring in a new owner, they have to be able to get along with the group of 32. They can't be somebody that nobody else gets along with, because before the sale can finalize, the owners have to vote on it.
Had to approve it, yeah.
So
it has to be like 2/3 vote, I think.
So I believe they believe that Andlauer is somebody that Bettman believes he could pitch to the owners as being a stand-up individual that he can personally vouch for.
Still feels a little kind of gross in the aspect of, like, it's who you know, not necessarily how much money.
Supposedly, some of the problem is that the Melnick Trust, the two sisters, I believe, that own the team currently, they're unhappy with how the NHL is conducting the sale, and they're fighting the
surprised.
NHL on the fact that the NHL is costing them a couple $100 million.
I kind of, but yeah, exactly. So I would be upset too if I was the owners being like, no, you're making it so I can't earn as much money just because you're being bitches. Like, that's not fair.
Exactly. That's kind of where this is at this point in time.
Yeah.
Which is also affected the fact that Alex DeBrincat has said that he is probably not going to re-sign in Ottawa because he doesn't know who the new owners are going to be.
I don't blame him. I would be upset about
He's
it too.
an RFA. He has a $9 million RFA tender, but he has no intention of re-signing there.
Yeah, that's fine.
On the same boat, Pierre-Luc Dubois has stated that he has no intention of signing in Winnipeg when his tender comes up at the end of this next season as an RFA. He's already said, I am not re-signing in Winnipeg. He's also put out through his agent and made it clear that if I get traded to a team that I don't really like, I'm not going to re-sign that tender.
That's fair.
Apparently, the one place he really wants to go is Montreal, which is where he's from.
Of course.
He wants to go play in Montreal.
Yeah, but does Montreal want you?
Actually, yeah.
Yes?
He was
fair enough.
He was a third or fourth overall pick, and he's a good center. He would be a great second-line center. They're on the upswing. Montreal could really use somebody like a PLD.
Fair enough.
Now, I will also point out that there are owners that don't want this to happen because so the way you become a UFA is you have to be 25 and have played so many games and yada yada yada, and that's how you can become a UFA instead of an RFA. Once that happens, you become unrestricted. For example, right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs goalie, Samsonov, he is an RFA, even though he's 25. Something about one of the he didn't meet a certain qualification, so he's still an RFA. He won't be a UFA until his next contract. If they tender him and he signs for a year, then he'll be a UFA at the end of next season. The idea with the RFA is you kind of want to try to get a long-term deal in place. Yeah. And the RFA just keeps around your local talent for as long as you can keep them. But if somebody like PLD is able to use the RFA to force his way out of somewhere and say, I'm not re-signing a tender, I have no intention of signing a long-term deal, and he has no intention of signing that tender, and he can force his way out of somewhere, then that's going to make the league that's going to make certain owners look bad because you're going to see more players, more young players begin to try to take control of their careers at a younger age.
Well, they should. To be
and
fair.
I agree with you. I'm just saying, from an
they're not going to like that. Yeah.
From an ownership perspective, they're not going to like that.
No.
At all.
But at the same time, what are you going to do to stop that? You'd have to basically make it so that you force them to sign a tender, which I don't see how you could possibly get away with that.
Oh no, I agree. That's not.
So
that's not something we want here. So there's a lot kind of going on.
They might just have to accept that that's just going to happen now. Like,
I guess the other big stories are like Toronto stories right now. Especially for the Maple Leafs, the core four. What are you going to do with them? Do you try to keep them? Do you have to move some of that? Look, let's be realistically honest here. If you keep them, it is your sign of saying that you are going to keep the same group and expect different results.
That's true. Yep.
Which
would be the sign of badness.
Yes. I personally think at least one of them has to go. Now,
right.
I don't think it can be Matthews. I think Austin Matthews has to stay. On top of which, in order to try to make sure that Matthews wants to stay around, Toronto just brought in as a special assistant or special advisor Arizona hockey legend Shane Doan. That's probably a little before your time.
It is.
But Shane Doan played on the Coyotes for a while, and he even led him to a conference final one time.
Oh.
Back when they were actually good. Of course, you know, he used to skate kind of upright and flail his elbows everywhere, but, you know, back in the 90s, that was kind of a thing.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. But yeah, Austin Matthews grew up watching Shane Doan play and has kind of idolized Shane Doan, and now Toronto has brought in Shane Doan to be a special advisor in the front office. Right. So Austin Matthews is going to stay around. I don't think John Tavares is going anywhere. So that leaves either Marner or Nylander as the odd man out, and that you should trade and try to recoup value for. And I don't know which one I'd want to trade. The only reason I say that is because Marner is a fabulous player and has great eyes for passing on the ice and really has a pretty good chemistry with Matthews overall. But he is a bit of a pain in the ass, and he and Sheldon Keefe haven't always gotten along, and that's the coach. So unless you plan to get rid of Sheldon Keefe, you might want to get rid of Marner. Now, Nylander has started to really come into his own and has begun to find his stroke as a shooter. He's a pretty young dude. He fits very well with Tavares on the second line. I don't know who you get rid of, but one of those two is probably going to be the person that has to go. You are also going to be up against the idea that the president of hockey operations there, Shanahan, has apparently called all of the core four and left them with the impression that they would be sticking around.
Interesting.
Yeah. So one of the things that's been coming out, and I'm not sure where it came from, but guys up on 32 Thoughts, good podcast, by the way, they mentioned that apparently they want to de-emphasize the core four. I don't know what the fuck that means.
If they're trying to imply that they just don't want them to have as much attention, that seems like a mistake.
Well, I'm not sure if it means that we're going to feature other people in promotional materials. Maybe? To try to build more stars. Maybe? Or if it means that we're going to trade one of them. Or if it means that they're going to get less ice time. Or I don't know. I don't know what it means. I don't know. Nobody knows what it means.
It doesn't make any... Like, my first thought went to less ice time. That's where my first thought went to, because I'm like, oh, are you trying to like give other players more time then? Is that?
We're also not sure who the source is that spoke to the individual in question.
Fair.
Somebody has suggested, what if it's one of the players? Or what if it's several of the players? And this is how they feel.
Maybe.
Which means you could have a major problem going on right now in the locker room.
I don't know. It's hard to say. We just don't know. We don't even know if the source is even credible at this point.
Well, it also comes out at the same time as Ryan O'Reilly went on a podcast and kind of made some odd comments about the Leafs locker room. He said something about the effect that he feels that there were people in there that could have tried harder in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was... Oof.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I can understand what he's saying. Like, I get what he means. He just means everyone should be held to the same accountability, which, yeah, that's fair. I mean, if you have a high standard for yourself, obviously you're going to have a high standard for everyone else. That's just the way it is.
And, you know, like, the other locker rooms and the other people that I'm interested in are obviously the Minnesota Wild. I'm very curious to see what we're going to do, because we are right up against the cap because of the buyouts of both Suter and Parise. I believe last year it was a $12 million hit, and this year and next year it's going to be 16.
I don't remember. I don't remember the full details. It's probably somewhere around there.
Which is ridiculous. And then it becomes palatable. I want to say after that it's like, hold on. I can actually look this up. On that. I can look this up. Cap friendly. All right. So, buyouts. Yeah, it's 14.7 million this year and next.
Okay.
And then it becomes 1.6 million for the following 4 seasons. Which
So
you can live with
these
1.
next 2 years are gonna, yeah, these next 2 years are just gonna suck.
Yeah, the 1.6 million you can work with.
Yeah.
That's easy, and by then hopefully the cap will start going up again.
Yeah.
So here's what I
The
have.
214s. Ugh.
Yeah, here's what I've learned. The reason the cap hasn't gone up a whole lot is because the players have been paying into escrow because while the world was shut down with COVID, they chose to take their money.
Yep.
And because they chose to take their money, the league who couldn't run games during that time is making them pay it back in installments.
Yep.
Now, apparently the league is a little behind in calculating how much the players have actually paid back. By the beginning of this coming season, they may not be doing escrow anymore. So
Probably won't be.
If
I'd be surprised.
If that is the case, then at the end of this coming season, you could actually see a major cap jump.
Yeah.
Because between all the games that have been run and the players paying them back, they've made back what they should have in terms of the investment. So far, that's going all right. The whole situation is very weird. I think you could see a cap jump at the end of this coming season, which would help alleviate some of that 14 million. But the year after that, if it also takes a jump, that 1.6 is going to be a drop in the bucket.
Yeah,
and
it's basically
we'll
nothing,
easily be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because that season will be, I want to say that'll be one of the last ones on Kaprizov's current contract.
Probably. It's probably close, because I think we only signed him to, what, like a 4 or 5?
Yeah, we only signed him to like a bridge deal, I believe.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, he's only got 3 years left. He's up through 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
Which, if I look at that, yeah, that's the first year of the 1.6.
So
if we can sign a bunch of stuff at that point in time and possibly give him a large extension by then,
Yep.
maybe we could create a competitive team with him, and he'll be like, okay, I can stay here.
I'll go around, yeah.
Yeah, that's my hope. I'm rather a big fan.
I mean, with how competitive we've been, I think that's possible to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be enough to keep him around, but we'll see. It's just going to determine on what.
Well, because we've got quite a bit of people signed up.
We do.
For quite some period of time. If I look at our situation, even we've got Matt's only has one more. Zuccarello only has one more year, but he's 35. So I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to keep him around. Matt Boldy, we've got him signed up for the next 7 years.
Yep.
At $7 million. Marcus Foligno only has one more year left, and then he's a UFA. We signed up Frederick Gaudreau. He's got 5 years more with us. That'll make him 35 when he's done. We've got Marcus Johansson for 2 years. And then we've got to deal with RFAs Mason Shaw, Brandon Duhaime, and Sam Steele. And then Gustav Nyquist, Ryan Reeves, and Oscar Sundquist are all UFAs. I personally would like to keep Reeves. I wouldn't mind keeping Nyquist and Sundquist either, but I don't think we'll be able to keep all of them.
Right.
And then over on the defensive end of things, we do have Jared Spurgeon for the next 4 years. He's 33. He'll be 37 when that contract is done. We've got Jonas Brodin for 5 more. He's 29 now. We've got Jacob Middleton for 2 years. We've got Goligoski for a year. And we've got John Merrill for 2. Our free agents are Kalen Addison, who's an RFA, John Klingberg, who's a UFA, and Dumba, who's a UFA. And then down on the goalies end, we've still got Fleury signed up for 1 more year at 3.5, Gustafson is an RFA, and Hunter Jones is an RFA. And then if you look down in our pool of stuff, we've still got, we've got some forwards that are decent that could come up. We've still got Marco Rossi down there. But, on defense, we have Brock Faber. We have Carson Lambos. We've got some young, good players. So it's a matter of, what do we want to do with some of them? Do we want to let some of our D-men walk and bring up some of our young players and see how they go? Mm-hmm. And then as far as goalies go, obviously Jesper Wallstedt is still down there. I don't think he's coming up this next year. I think we'll tender Gustafson, the Gus Bus, and we'll keep him around. I can see that. And we'll keep Fleury around for one more year, and I think that's going to be like his swan song. And then I think we'll bring Wallstedt up as a tandem pair the next season between him and Gus.
I can see that.
Yep.
I can see that.
That's kind of what I'm seeing. I don't think we're going to re-sign Dumba. There's been some noise that we would like to. I just don't think we have the cap space.
Probably not, yeah.
I think we'd like to keep Reeves. There's been some suggestions that maybe we should move Foligno. He does only have 1 year left, and he is 31. I think we'd like to keep Mats around, and I don't know if he's going to retire at the end of this contract or not. Like I said, he's 35. I don't know how many more years he has in him. But he's played some of his best hockey here in Minnesota, and I think he'd like to stay because I think him and Kaprizov have a really good connection. And I think that means a lot to Zuccarello. Like I said, he's played some of his best hockey in Minnesota. Why would he want to leave? We'd like to keep Reeves because Reeves has been nothing but as much as he's an utter ass to play against. He's actually scored a couple of goals for us, which you don't expect out of a guy like Reeves, and he helps bring an intimidation presence to our fourth line. People don't want to fight Ryan Reeves.
Right. I mean, to be fair,
there's a reason for that. I
wouldn't either.
Yeah. To be fair, there's a reason for that. So we'll have to see how this all turns out. But being that the free agent market is a thin market this year, I think it's entirely possible that we could potentially see Minnesota make some good moves.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they have been kind of in the, sort of rising over the last couple of years, slowly rising more and more, so.
We'll have to see what they do.
I'm hopeful.
We'll have to see what they do with the draft that's upcoming. That'll be an interesting thing to watch. And yeah, I think overall that'll be a lot of fun and a lot of interest to see. Now, over in the NBA. We are obviously in the NBA Finals. It is the Denver Nuggets versus the Miami Heat.
There you go.
I wanted to say Dallas Mavericks, by the way. I don't know the fuck why. The Denver Nuggets versus the Miami Heat. And the Denver Nuggets are up 3-1 on the Heat. The Heat were the 8th seed.
They were, yeah.
In the East, and they managed to get all the way to the finals.
They
so
somehow managed to get there, but a lot of people were expecting the Nuggets to just steamroll them.
More or less
kind of looking that way.
Yeah, and it's weird because there's a lot of people that are not a fan of Jokic. Yes, Djokovic. Nikolai Djokovic. Joker's game. He doesn't really jump. No. He's tall and lanky. He can rattle in threes. He can do all kinds of things, but he doesn't look like your traditional basketball player.
People hate playing against him, yeah.
People hate playing against him, and most sports pundits they don't get his game. They don't like him.
Yeah,
And yet,
it looks boring, but in reality, it's far more sophisticated. But it looks boring.
you want
Like
to
if you
know who
watch the
else?
way he plays, it's not fun to watch.
You want to know who else had a boring ass game that wasn't fun to watch and won a
Larry Bird.
fuckload of titles? No, Larry Bird was awesome.
He wasn't fun to watch.
He was awesome to watch. I don't know.
He was fun to watch if you knew basketball. If you didn't know basketball, you just confused watching him.
Well, I mean, you'd have to catch the tips and everything else. Also, Larry didn't have a problem throwing down if you had to.
No, that's what I was saying. That was the most entertaining part about Larry is that he would just get in people's faces.
No, it was the most boring vanilla motherfucker I have ever watched play basketball ever.
There's a couple I can think of.
Tim Duncan.
Ooh, yeah, that's fair.
Vanilla game. You always know what he was going to do, but the guy had 21 and 10, 21 and 10, 21 and 11, 21 and 12, 21 and 22 and 10. Every season, that guy was just a walking double-double. And he was boring. He was boring.
There's
he wasn't
a lot
flashy.
of players like that, yeah.
He didn't jump. He didn't dunk. He didn't do... But you know what? He had a great team around him, and they won a fuck ton of championships.
Yeah.
So... that's kind of where I'm not going to say that Djokovic right now is in the air of Tim Duncan, but
he's got that kind of same style.
He has
though.
the style.
It's kind of boring to watch, but it's still incredibly efficient. He plays incredibly efficient basketball. That's probably the best way to put it.
Yes.
He almost plays it like a science. It's weird.
I forget who he was talking to, but Kyrie Irving had been talking to someone about coming to Dallas and forming a big three with him and Luka. And my response to that was, no. Every time Kyrie has attempted to put together some sort of big three, it has miserably failed.
God, I can't remember his name, but I think I knew who the third was. But I can't remember him off the top of... I can picture his face. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now.
All I know is it was a big-name player. And he wants them to come to Dallas to form that big three. And look,
he does it every year.
Let's be honest. Every time Kyrie is a part of something like that, it flops horribly. So my answer is...
because they don't get along.
Kyrie doesn't get along with Kyrie.
Kyrie barely manages to get along with Kyrie. Sometimes I think he wakes up and hates himself.
Yeah. So, like, he's got a ring because he got drug along by LeBron James for a ring. Then he went and tried to be his own man with the Celtics, and that didn't work. So he went to the Nets and formed a big three a big two at first with him and Durant. And then they added Harden, and that fell apart.
The funny thing is, Kyrie's not a bad player. He's just got an ego the size of a fucking planet.
And he says and does dumb shit.
Exactly, because he's got an ego the size of a planet.
like if he were to just keep quiet and play, he'd have a bajillion rings by now.
Like, LeBron speaks more than I would like, but even LeBron is more chill than Kyrie is. Like, if Kyrie would just even dialed it back to just LeBron crazy, he'd be fine. Like,
yeah, I agree. The problem is Kyrie just has, like, he's on, like, Yee levels of crazy.
He has no filter.
Yeah. I mean, it's amusing.
Oh, it's fun to watch, but
if I was a teammate of his, I'd be like,
oh, I'd hate him.
God damn.
I'd be like, Kyrie, stop talking. And then I'd probably get punched in the face, but
Yeah, probably.
Because that sounds like something Kyrie would do.
And then he'd fracture his hand while punching you in the face and be out for 6 weeks.
And then he'd blame you for it.
Yes.
I broke my fist on your face.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus.
Yep.
But yeah, so Denver is up 3-1 in that series. We do expect them to finish them off.
They probably
quickly.
should. Like, a lot of people are saying that Miami might win one more, but that's at best.
I do believe that would be Denver's first ever NBA championship.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's actually true. I feel like they've won one before, or they maybe not. They maybe have only been.
I don't even know if they've ever been to one before.
I thought they have been. Hold on. I want to confirm this.
I don't.
Mostly just for my own.
I want to say they may have been to one with Mello.
Wikipedia. Zero championships. You're right. Have they ever been though? Oh, after the name change, the Nuggets played for the final ABA championship title in 1976. So no, they haven't been. I don't think they've been since.
No, they haven't ever appeared in a finals until now.
No.
So,
however, they did not qualify for the NBA finals. So yeah, so the actual finals that I was thinking of was still when they were the ABA. So yeah, they haven't actually been to the NBA.
They haven't been to the
ever.
NBA finals.
Yeah. So this is the first time, and they're probably gonna win one.
First time
right,
in, first time win. Let's do it.
Might as well. Might as well. I mean, that's the best way to do it, right?
Also,
Florida's trying to mimic that, I think. Oh, wait, no, the Florida's been there. Never mind.
Florida has been there. They were there in '96, and Vegas has also been there.
Long time ago. Yeah, Vegas was there only a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, their first inaugural season.
Yeah, and then they got smacked in the finals.
They got
against,
smacked
who was it
in
again?
the finals.
Was it? That was against? Was that the Leafs at the time? No, that would have been Tampa, right?
Tampa.
I think it was Tampa, the Lightning.
I think it was Tampa.
Yep, that sounds about right. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Because Tampa was really good for a couple years there.
Yeah.
And they're still good. They were just really good there, though.
Yeah. They're still good. It's just they're starting to decline a little now. Every team
it's the age finally catching up, yeah.
Every team has that happen. We'll see if they can rebound, but I think that's going to be a whole other thing. But yeah, no, I think Denver's about to win their first ever NBA championship. We're about to see a first-time champion, a first-time hoister of the Stanley Cup in hockey, which I think is great. Let me see your other news.
I'd love to see it, man.
Jacob deGrom, I believe, for the Rangers, is now out for the season, as I believe he needs to have surgery.
What I thought I heard too, but I don't remember any details beyond that.
I don't remember if it was Tommy John surgery or something like that, but
I knew it was something to do. I thought it was his shoulder, but I couldn't remember.
I think it is his shoulder. I think there's something in his shoulder that's jacked up.
Yeah,
and he's gonna have surgery to repair it.
Because Tommy John's elbow, right?
Tommy John is elbow, yes.
Yeah, so I think this was something shoulder related.
I believe you are correct, but I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, I don't want to quote that, obviously.
But yeah, no. So he is shut down for the season, but the Rangers are still doing quite well.
Oh, wow.
They are absolutely murdering people out there. The A's actually won a series of games against the Pirates.
No way.
They may not be the worst team in baseball anymore.
Yeah, they probably still are, though.
Well, yeah. I think they are still the worst team currently, but they may not.
Maybe not in history.
They may not be on pace for the record anymore.
No.
That's what I was getting at.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, because currently now they are 16-50 with a .242 losing percentage. They still only have. There's still a run differential of 196 runs negative. Jesus. Yeah, and the Rangers are a plus 153. Oh, that's disgusting.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, trying to find the last several games for the Athletics, somebody was telling me that they scored a ton of runs. All right, there we go.
Do you mean a ton of runs for the A's, or actually a ton of runs?
They took 2 out of 3 against the Pirates and scored a total of 24 runs in that time.
Okay, fair enough.
They lost 4-5 in the first game. They won the next game 11-2, and then they won 9-5. And then the other day they beat the Brewers 5-2 and just finished them off. Yeah, their most recent game was against the Brewers, and they finished them off in 10 innings, 2-1.
Okay,
and I was
so
like,
they're playing like a baseball team now. Finally, okay.
And the joke that I made was, hey, wait, I read this script before. It was called Major League.
Pretty much. They're finally starting to play better. Now, granted, they're not going to all of a sudden get amazing and make it to the playoffs.
Well, and it's funny.
Like,
the reason I said Major League is because there's been the whole thing where they're trying to move him to Vegas.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that right away. I was like, yeah, I get the joke. Haha. Don't get me wrong. I love the movie. It's a great movie, but
fantastic movie, by the way. But now all of
if you haven't seen it, watch it.
But now all of a sudden they're playing like a real baseball team, and maybe they could come out of this slump that they've been in, and maybe they actually look like a good team. And
let's not get our hopes up.
No.
You know how... Listen, as good as sports stories are, there's a reason why most of the time they don't work out the way you expect them to, like they do in the movies.
Well, I will say that there was a point where the A's were sliding one year, and then they won 20-plus games in a row.
I'm not saying it's impossible, just incredibly unlikely.
Yeah, this team anyway. But no, they were not doing well. And then they made a couple of trades. They fired the manager. No, they didn't fire the manager. They got rid of a couple of people. And then they went on a 21-game winning streak or something.
I mean, sometimes it is just as simple as like a couple pieces missing or a couple pieces that are making it not work.
And that was actually immortalized in the movie Moneyball and the book Moneyball. Yep. And that was that season where they were dog shit, and then all of a sudden won a load of games in a row and wound up going into the playoffs. I don't think that you're going to have that happen this year, A's. So don't. All of you fans that are still
don't think you're going to moneyball it again all of a sudden.
Don't think you're going to moneyball it. But if the young players that have suddenly found their stride can keep going, maybe you have a better season next season. I don't know if it'll be in Oakland, but
probably not. But you can hope.
Well, there is a... where did I hear that? There's a lawmaker in California who is attempting to use an antitrust lawsuit against the MLB. Something like that, where they have said that the MLB was negotiating in bad faith and all sorts of things.
Okay.
That the MLB wants to move the team to Vegas. So they weren't. So the team and the owners and the MLB weren't actually negotiating with the city in good faith, trying to get a new arena and trying to get all the stuff to keep them there. They were purposely negotiating in bad faith, knowing they were going to move the team.
I mean, good luck proving it, though. That's really hard to prove.
Yeah,
you have to have pretty good.
I think that's a long shot, but you know, I give them credit. You know what? E for effort.
Right. Like, at best, it's just more of I'm just going to slow you down more than anything else.
Yeah, that's kind of what that is. Now, I will also say that in the last I had heard, there was not a plan in place yet for the stadium in Vegas. Something had held
I did hear.
Something had held it up there. So
I don't remember what it was.
I do not remember what it was either.
I thought it was something really silly too, and it was just kind of something that was supposed to be like should have been handled before and wasn't somehow. Like, I forget what it is.
I agree. It was something that should have been handled and didn't get handled at all.
Yeah.
So
one of those small details that ended up getting slipped through the cracks, kind of thing.
Yuppers.
So I think it's only going to delay it for a little bit. It shouldn't take too long still.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take too long at all. So about all we've got left is we're waiting to hear if Danielle Hunter gets traded. There's not much else going on right now. We're kind of in a holding pattern until, we'll see. Yeah. I think the NHL draft is coming up soon.
Soon-ish, right?
I believe so. We're not going to watch and react to that, but we will talk about it.
We'll talk about it when it happens afterwards. We're not going to we're not going to do like the NFL draft where we live react to it.
June 28th.
Okay, so
June 28th
within the next couple
and
weeks.
June 29th.
So a couple weeks.
So end of this month.
Yeah.
We pretty much know who the first overall pick is going to be. That's been decided for over a year at this point. So we'll kind of see how all of it works out. We'll also see if there's any interesting movement at the draft, because there usually is.
If there is.
There usually are interesting trades at the draft. And I think this year there could be more than most, again, because of a limited free agent pool. So
that and also limited cap space,
I think there are going to be some major trades made. Outside of that, I don't have anything else.
I got nothing.
All right. Well, so what we'll say is hopefully this one goes up and I got all the audio captured. So we'll say, you know what? Y'all have a great week. If you liked what we did here, go ahead, give us a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe. If you don't want to do either of those, we'll give you the middle finger. There you go. In the meantime, we'll tell everybody we hope you have a great week. We hope everybody is successful at what you decide you want to be successful at. Stay awesome. Stay bearded.